So the next section we're going to cover is going to talk about points and midpoints. So first vocabulary word is midpoint. So the midpoint of a segment is the point that is halfway, think midpoint, middle, between the endpoints of the segment. If M is the midpoint of AB, then AM is congruent to MB. So there's two ways of finding midpoint, all right? So again, speaking to what it had said before, when it says that, so you have segment AB, so from A to B, and if you know M is the midpoint, then it means that this is congruent to this because it splits it directly in half. So again, there's two ways of finding midpoints, just like there was two ways of figuring out distance. If you're given a number line or two endpoints, let's say on a number line, then you're basically, the middle is like the average. So you're adding the 2 points up and you're dividing it by 2. That's how you would take the average. So that's on a number line. The difference is if you're given coordinates again, similar to distance, x1, y1, x2, y2, we're going to do something very similar to what A says. We just got to do it twice because there's an x and a y. So the midpoint, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So you're taking the average of the x's and you're taking the average of the y's. And what you're going to have to decide with the examples is which of these two methods are we going to use? Are we going to use the number line approach or are we going to use the coordinate approach? So the easiest way to tell is if you're given points, it's the coordinate approach. If you're given only two numbers, then it's going to be the number line approach. So let's see, it says Jamie is hanging a picture 15 inches from the left side of the wall. How far from the edge of the wall should she mark the location for the nail for the picture to hang on if the right edge is 37.5 inches from the wall's left side? So you're only given two numbers, 15 and 37.5. So x1 is like 15 and x2 is like 37.5. These are not coordinates by any means, which means we are going to use approach number 1, which is the number line, which says that we take the two values, we add them up, and divide it by 2. So we take the two values, we add them up, and you divide it by 2. So the numerator is 52.5, divided by 2 gets us 26.25, and these are word problems, so just make sure you have units on there for inches. For 2, it says find the coordinates of M, the midpoint of ST, for S given these points and T given these points. So you're specifically given coordinates here. So we are going to use coordinates because you can see there's a clear distinction between example 1 and example 2. So this is where you label x1, y1, x2, y2. So the formula says we take the x's, we add them up, divide it by 2. We take the y's, we add them up, and we divide it by 2. So we've got -6 plus 1 divided by 2, and we have 3 plus 0 divided by 2. Well, -6 plus 1 is a -5. 3 plus 0 is 3. -5 divided by 2 is -2.5, and 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And for points, there's no units. It's only for the ones where you're dealing with the number line or something like 1 where the units were given to you that you have to include them. All right, so what I want you to do is to pause the video for 3 and 4 and try those two on your own. Again, first thing you want to do is identify, is it the number line approach or are you using coordinates? And then actually calculate the midpoint. And then come back and check over what I'm about to go over. All right, so temperature on a thermometer dropped a reading. We have two numbers here, so this is our number line. We do not have coordinates to work with. So x1 is 25 and x2 is -8. So we're going to take those two values, we're going to add them up and divide it by 2. So we have 17 divided by 2, which gets us 8.5, and we're talking degrees here, so the units would be degrees. For 4, we're given actual points, so this is our coordinate approach. And we're going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. And the formula, like in 2, says that we take the x's, 5 and -4, add them up, divide it by 2. And we take the y's, 12 and 8, add them up, divide it by 2. So 5 and -4 gets me 1. 12 and 8 gets me 20. And when I simplify, I get